Hey everyone, this is Nicholas Peter Ugero, and today I have John Bush of myBraveBotanicals.com and freedomcells.org with me. Thank you so much for coming on my channel. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem at all. It's a pleasure and an honor. Like seriously, I remember seeing you first on Derek Brose's channel, and I was like, oh, who is this guy? And it took a little bit for me to finally click on a video. I'm like, oh, this guy's excellent. And you've been in this for 20 years. You got a lot of knowledge, and you're very well spoken. You can do an hour straight podcast. And you got a lot of information. I really respect and admire what you're doing. So,
hey, thank you.
It's a pleasure talking with you. Just as a brief introduction for yourself and your website, and also Freedom Cells, and just to give people an overview of you and what you're all about.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, my name's John Bush. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm 36 years old, I think, last time I checked, and I've been an activist for a couple decades. I really am concerned with peace and freedom for individuals and families and communities, and got my start doing 9/11 truth stuff and the whole conspiracy angle, and then learned about libertarianism from the Ron Paul campaign in 2007, 2008. And from there, that was like the red pill that took me down the rabbit hole towards anarchism and ultimately agorism, which is revolutionary market anarchism and creating alternative institutions. And that's been my focus a whole lot. I have two kiddos. They are 7 and 8, and really into entrepreneurship as well, especially entrepreneurship as a vehicle for change and helping people. And then back in 2014, 2015, came up with this great idea called Freedom Cells, which essentially is like a mutual aid group centered around a small group of 8. We call it inner cadre, and you work together on common goals, mutual aid, mutual defense. And then you link up with other groups of the same size and you form a larger group. And then you link up with other groups in different areas and regions. And before you know it, you have your own free society. And there's over 4,000 people that are participating in the Freedom Cell Network. So that's super exciting. But yeah, that's about me in a nutshell. And my business is Brave Botanicals. We sell Kratom and CBD, mostly Kratom. Kratom's a member of the coffee family. It helps people with stress and anxiety, chronic pain, relaxation, sleep, focus. A lot of people use Kratom instead of prescription pain medicine or anxiety medicine or attention medicine. And a lot of people prefer it. It's all natural. It's made from the powderized leaves of the Kratom evergreen tree.
Yeah, and just to be fully open and honest, like I have purchased Kratom from John personally, and I've been using it myself. I actually literally just took some red relaxation before I got on this thing to kind of mellow out, so I'm not as nervous. But yeah, for me personally, it's worked great. I've been telling my mom about it. I'm trying to get her some. Me and her have been battling with some stuff personally, so it's been excellent. I've personally recommend it to everyone, and I also made a video about it a few weeks ago if anyone hasn't checked that out, and also about Freedom Cells. I made 2 separate videos, so if anyone's interested, check my channel below. And you'll be able to see some more information on that and go on those personally to get more information. So in terms of your business and just you on a personal level, how has this whole pandemic thing in 2020 been affecting you?
Well, I went into the pandemic with quite a bit of momentum for my business. I'm a big follower of this guy named Grant Cardone. He does the 10X rule, and he's just really amped up on energy and motivation and thriving. And the whole 10X idea is that you 10X your goals, you 10X the input, you 10X the energy, 10X the time that you spend with your family, and figure out a way to balance all of that. And so coming into the pandemic, my business was already doing great, and I kind of saw it for what it was kind of early on. At first, I was a little concerned and just uncertain of, wow, what's going on? Is this the real deal, or do we need to be worried? Do we need to stay home? But then quickly it became pretty clear that the virus was far less deadly and harmful than the media and the public health experts tried to convey. So then I started pushing back against it. But throughout the whole thing, business actually picked up a little bit. I think more people were concerned about their health and conscious of their health. So they were willing to give some alternative remedies a try. And everyone knew that folks that have chronic health issues or pre-existing conditions were more susceptible to harm from the virus. So I think people were paying more attention to that. So there was actually an increase in business, which I'm grateful for.
Excellent. Yeah. And that's the thing, you being a self-starter, having your own business, you weren't relying on other people. So like for me, like for me being the self-starter, it's very hard. Like I left my job initially in April because they were mandating like temperature checks and all these things. So I was like, no go, I'm not doing this, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I was jobless, and I didn't have much I could do. I like you're saying, like with the 10X stuff, I'm just like, wow, I got to start getting that ball rolling, the momentum and being consistent with getting things accomplished. And that's also why I wanted to get you on here, was just it's very motivating, like just hearing like your story and what you've been going through, and just your mindset and how you get things accomplished, which is also what I wanted to discuss in Freedom Cells, the website. I know recently you guys have been having a little bit of issues with like the map, but I've been having a good time on there. I actually created my own cell in Roselle, Illinois. It's called Cell of Roselle. So if anyone's in the Roselle, Illinois area, please feel free to join up and communicate with me. I'm trying to get some communication going, maybe hopefully meet up with people and do some actual collaboration and at least talking about different systems, because that's at least the start. But for Freedom Cells, what's on the horizon? Is there any new updates or little UI improvements that we can expect to see from freedomcells.org?
Sure. Well, people can sign up to be a part of the network at freedomcells.org. And again, it's basically, we're trying to create an alternative means of social organization so people don't have to depend on the state. And ultimately, when we have enough people, we can all opt out of the state without having crazy consequences, like just the lone sitting duck is a much easier target. And it's a great place to find and meet people. So we have had some issues with the website, but thankfully the event stuff and the member map has been resolved. So there's a great feature where you sign up, you register, you input what skills you have to offer and what it is you're looking for. And then you also put an address. So you can put your home address if you want, or like a park down the road, or this local Starbucks or whatever. Well, I guess there's probably like 10 local Starbucks in just about every city. The Starbucks closest to you, or the local coffee shop, better yet. And then from there, you can see if there's people in your area. And chances are, if you live in a decently populated area, there'll be a handful of other people. And from there, you can network, you can meet up in person. If there's not a lot of people in your area, we actually have a working draft of a manual that has a lot of great advice on where to find people and how to recruit people and bring them into the network. So yeah, it's basically like an alternative social network, but really the purpose is to get people activated and to help people find other like-minded folks that they can build with and start building out these little groups to help fulfill our common wants and needs without relying on government, essentially.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So you guys have an actual like information document that people can look at on how to get more organized?
Yeah, I don't think it's linked on the website right now. It's on Google Docs. We should find a better platform than that, but people can go to it and then they can make comments. So it's kind of like a community collaborative effort. So I didn't want to just blast it out to the public, because then people might troll it and just kind of get a little bit overwhelmed there. But if you join the Telegram group, there's a Freedom Cells Telegram group, then it's linked to the top. I can send it to you via Facebook or whatever, Nicholas, but there's a lot of good advice there. And you asked earlier, what's on the horizon? I'm going to be doing a series of meetings. We just had one in Austin, and there was over 35 people that attended, and maybe like 6 or 7 from Texas there on a Zoom call. And there's like 70 people watching live. And so that's the first meeting. I'm going to do one in Oklahoma in a couple weeks at this event called MidFest. It's like a decentralized, spontaneous event, kind of like JackFest, which takes place in Arizona. People can check it out at midfest.info. And then shortly after that, we'll be doing one in Houston and Dallas, Fort Worth, maybe one in Florida. I'm going to Florida in October. But the idea is just to introduce people to the idea and provide a place for networking. Eventually, when we hopefully bring in some more funds or find some donors, or maybe ask everyone to chip in $5 a month or something like that, not require it, but request that, then we can use that money to build out a newer platform or to upgrade the existing infrastructure. But really, the website is just a means to the end, where the magic is getting together with your own groups and supporting one another and helping one another, and then networking with other groups in the area, so you have strength in numbers and you can maximize your effectiveness and better achieve common goals.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The strength in numbers thing is the most important thing, I feel. Especially when I left my job, I had a few people that could see through the virus and understand like the bigger things at play, but they still ended up just choosing the paycheck instead of being principled and having their thoughts and emotions in line with their actions. So like especially in 2020, a lot of people have kind of fallen to the wayside. Even people that were really pro-truth and pro-freedom and anti-government. So yeah, the strength in numbers is definitely something that can be a benefit for most people, if not everybody. I spoke with a gentleman just this past week, John Coleman, and he's on the education side of it. So he has his own website, and so instead of him just being in the school system, he actually is doing his own thing. He has his own type of business. And I think that's the best thing that we can do is also to see the problems and not just see them, but also to take effective action to start at least branching out and communicating and trying to create those other systems like you're advocating, which is definitely the solution. It's definitely recognizing the problem, but then also taking effective action, which is excellent. Yeah. So for organization and just tips and tricks for people, especially like myself, because I'm on here doing an interview with you, everybody that's watching this, doesn't mean I'm any better than you guys. I'm a human being and I'm still learning and growing. I'm a student. So I know that you've mentioned the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I personally have put that on my BitChute channel and my library channel. If anyone's interested, I have the audiobook for that. But are there any other books or resources that you think would help people that are maybe not as great of self-starters, or maybe want to do a podcast or start a YouTube channel or a BitChute channel, and things that could help them be motivated and be more organized?
Sure. The book I mentioned earlier called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, that's a really solid one, especially for motivation and encouraging people to, to fulfill their potential. A lot of it centers around goals and targets. And the idea is, say you have a job and you're making like $40,000 a year. And he recommends, rather than having a goal to make $60,000, which sure, that'd be better than 40,000, but it's not such a crazy change in your life that it would be super duper motivating to really take it to the next level. So he says, if your goal was going to be 60,000, you just 10x that. So maybe you should put a goal of having $600,000 a year in income. And then you can think about it and dream about it. You're like, wow, all the things that I could do with 600,000. I could get the fancy RV. I could have a boat. We could do this for our family. I could save this, buy property or whatever. And the idea is that you're more excited and it's more of a big change. So it really pushes you. Same thing with accomplishing your goals. You 10x, doesn't have to be 10x, but it's the idea to encourage people to think bigger. And so I think that's really important to get in line with your goals. And he encourages people to write down their goals at the beginning of every day and at the end of the day, so you can kind of be thinking about them and it'll help to manifest. So that's definitely something I would recommend, Grant Cardone. He's big in sales too. And he correctly points out that sales and marketing are just about everything when it comes to income, earning a living. And people that shy away from sales really are shooting themselves in the foot, because even if you're trying to persuade someone, you're selling them on some idea or concept or a product or service, or, as we're, in the liberty movement and trying to wake people up, we're selling them on the philosophy of liberty and selling them on the idea that we don't need government to have a peaceful society. So that's a good one. And then another one, as far as like productivity and getting things done, is called Getting Things Done. And that's the name of the book. I forget, David Allen's the author, but it's really a lot about how to go from here to there, and like the nuts and bolts strategies of to-do lists and immediately writing stuff down, so it's not clogging your brain and making you feel overwhelmed and anxious, and how to focus in on what it is that you want to accomplish. So that's another good one as well. And then I've been geeking out on this guy named Dan Kennedy. He's an old school marketing, direct marketing kind of guy with sales letters. And there's a lot of good stuff for people that want to start a business or entrepreneurial minded in there. The marketing stuff in there is really clutch. And then if people really want to get in on online retail stuff, it could be storefront as well. There's a guy named Russell Brunson. He's the guy behind ClickFunnels, which is this sales funnel software. But he has these really awesome books, 3 of them. One of them is called .com Secrets, and it's all about how to set up a sales funnel and how to help people through a sales process online. And it's a different type of website, not a website where you got the menu about all these videos and blogs, but it's like a more directed sales process in the form of a funnel. And you bring a lot of people into the top of the funnel, and then you slowly build trust and a relationship with them. And then you increase the value that you're providing them, and you ascend them up a value ladder where they're buying increasingly more expensive products and they're getting more involved in your whole universe. So he's got that .com Secrets, then Expert Secrets. And he recently did Traffic Secrets, which is about driving people to your product or your blog or your sales funnel. And for people wanting to do podcasts and your video blogs and stuff like that, it's a great help for that as well. He talks about having a dream 100, which is like your 100 ideal people that you would want to interview or that you would want to promote your stuff, and you slowly build a relationship and build trust with them. And then you, through that relationship, you help them, they help you to amplify your efforts and to promote your stuff. So that's definitely some great start. I've gained immense value from those 3 or 4 people: Grant Cardone, David Allen, Russell Brunson, and then Dan Kennedy as well. Wow. Sales and marketing stuff. A lot of heavy marketing in those worlds there.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. Like just having a lot of communication skills or psychology skills, all those can help benefit you in terms of business, or just like you're saying with the freedom cells, just talking to people about maybe the government or different solutions, and being able to talk to people and relate to them and understand and be able to read them. It's excellent. On a day-to-day basis, it's just a practical skill to have, and that's very informative and very empowering. And like the book you were just talking about, Trafficking Secrets, it's basically like what I'm doing. Like I'm talking to you. I know that you got a lot of information, and I know that establishing a connection with you guys and establishing trust. I'm trying to do a lot more interviews now, and networking, and yeah, it just helps you out, helps me out, and it's it definitely gets me out there, but then also gives me motivation and makes me like aspire to do what you guys are doing and just get more stuff accomplished. Cause yeah, I got back to another job, and then they started mandating masks, and then I left that. So now I'm jobless. I've been doing some dumpster diving, trying to salvage some food from Aldi or get some practical stuff like books or DVDs, and something I can kind of like turn around. But in terms of, just getting my feet on the ground, maybe putting out more videos or doing more research and just doing more learning, I've been slacking on that. A lot of things just to distract me, and it's something that I'm battling with myself. I've been doing a little bit of digging in my head, and I'm learning a lot of it's dopamine addiction. So in terms of like the cell phone or the internet or video games or porn, a lot of that has just like made it to where me picking up a book is like just too boring. Like my brain just can't handle it. So it's been a lot of stuff for me internally that I've been dealing with that have made me like just kind of not reach my potential. I'm not even doing like 2x. I'm not even close to that 10. So,
but you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere, and at least recognizing the problems and being honest about the problems that you have is at least the first step. So yeah, I'm trying, but I got a lot longer to go.
Mindfulness practice is really critical as far as getting control of your faculties and being able to catch yourself whenever you are engaging in an activity that doesn't align with your higher purpose. So for example, with the scrolling on social media, I find my girlfriend gives me a hard time too when I'm always on my phone messing around, and and then like I'll get in stupid arguments with people. Nobody's going to change anyone's mind. It's like, what's the point even? But yeah, people do get the dopamine when they get the little notification. There's that new documentary that came out on Netflix, which is really good. I forget what it's called, The Social Dilemma. But if you do mindfulness practice through meditation, through mindful breathing, and then when you can really excel at mindfulness, which is essentially being present in the moment without your thoughts about the past, worrying about the past, or anxious about the future or whatever, you're just there in the moment, then you're able to catch yourself. And because a lot of people just carry out a program, or it's just the dopamine that's driving them, motivating them, and they're not even noticing the fact that they're engaging in a behavior that when they sit down to think about, they're like, yeah, that's not really serving me, and I ought not to be doing that so often if I want to achieve A, B, and C. So when you're in the zone and you're mindful, then even when you start to engage in these habits, then you can kind of snap yourself out of it. Habits are another really big thing as well. A lot of people talk about the mindfulness and the law of attraction type stuff, where you got to align your thoughts and then that'll help to manifest the reality. But that's just one component of it. And if you just have that, then you're just kind of going to be flapping in the wind and kind of hairy-fairy, you know. You have to have the massive action, which Tony Robbins talks a whole lot about. And it's massive action that turns into habits. And so you slowly shift your habits away. So maybe when you start reaching on the phone and you find yourself scrolling, and because you've practiced mindfulness, you're like, oh, here I am scrolling again. That's not what I want to do. You switch the habit of scrolling, which is like to kill time, or there's not much going on, so I'm going to scroll. Then you're like, oh, okay. Instead of doing that, I'm going to change the habit to where I pick up this book here. And of course, the mindfulness practice will help with the concentration on focusing on a book. And like when you do meditation and some thoughts pop in your head, you just kind of wash them away. You recognize them, wash them away, and then go back to your controlled breathing. Same thing if you're reading a book and you I used to be reading a paragraph. I still do this. And then I find myself thinking about something from the day or whatever. And then I'm like, I didn't even get any of that last paragraph I just read through. I was thinking about something else. So then you can catch that and go back to that. But yeah, mindfulness and really focusing on habits and action is really critical as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent. And another book that I would personally recommend, I read it 2 times. My therapist recommended this to me a couple of years ago, but The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris.
Okay.
I didn't realize it at the time, but yeah, it's totally like mindfulness techniques and meditation. And he doesn't use those words, but yeah, there's so many different ways of being able to separate yourself from your thoughts to where you just recognize them for what they are. And then that's where the habits come in, because it can become a habit to where you're easily able to pick up on those things, to where you're instantly picking up your phone. You're like, oh, never mind. I don't need to do that right now. That's just an instinctual thing I'm doing. I don't need to do that right now. I can just do something else. Mm-hmm. I just recently I learned about like dopamine detoxing, to where you're like, people that go out in the woods for a weekend, they don't have their cell phones or anything, and they come back, they feel amazing. And so I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And so I did it for a full day, and I felt great within like the first 2 hours. I was getting so many more practical things done, and I got to just unplug my video game console. It's just wasting my time. It's like, I'm not getting the things I want to get done, accomplished. Like you were saying, like I'm not in line with what I want to do. So it's just like separating that, recognizing it, and just moving past those urges and recognizing them, and then it'll just be better off for it. So,
yeah, one thing you can do is use it as a reward. So it's like, I'm not going to allow myself to turn on the Xbox, or Nintendo Switch is my jam. I play with my kids a lot. And I'm not going to allow myself to turn it on until I accomplish these 3 goals that I lined out for today. Maybe I don't even accomplish them, so I don't get to play the game today. But maybe, it's 8 o'clock and wow, I had a great, super productive day. Now I'm going to treat myself and reward myself to, kind of just zone out on some video games. Because you don't want to just let go of life's enjoyment altogether.
Yeah.
And just only work or only focus on this, or like not allow yourself the pleasure of some of these things. But like you noticed, you don't want it to be the main thing. You want it to be an afterthought, essentially.
Yeah. And that's also been like my personal issue, is just not finding that balance, and just knowing that like I'm the one that gets to make that decision of whether or not I'm going to do it or not. So it's so much easier just to say, oh yeah, I'll play the game, instead of just saying, no, wait until you do this or do that. So for me, that's like the willpower, just not giving into that. That's definitely hard.
It's like a muscle. How old are you?
How old do you think I am?
Pretty damn young. Let me see. In your 20s, closer to 20 than 30. I would say 23 23.
Wow. I just turned 28 in August.
Oh, wow. You
I
look
love
super
playing
young.
that game. Thank you.
Cool.
I'm going to be 30 in just 2 years. Can't believe it. Bad side of 25.
Well, you're
But,
ahead of the curve thinking about all this stuff in general, because a lot of people never even get conscious of how they can improve their lives or be more fulfilling with their potential. So
yeah.
keep it up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, because I had depression from like 16 years old to like 23, almost 8 years of my life, and it was horrible, you know. But I just didn't have those mental tools to be able to handle the emotions, the thoughts, and just the actions I was taking, like the dopamine, especially. Like I didn't realize how much that was really a problem and affected my relationships. And even to this day, I'm gonna show the comment of my friend who I'm seeing. Nicholas has definitely been a great mentor for me in terms of staying true and honest with my mindset. I've learned so much and I'm thankful. He introduced me to you, John. Love your work. But yeah,
Thanks,
like me and
Lindsay.
her, yeah, me and her have had, it's basically been me. It's a lot of my issues. You know, I can't, like, I lose interest or I get bored or I think about other people that I could possibly see. And it's all just my mind just shooting off stuff, you know. It's just been, it's been a challenge and I'm still trying to work on that, but at least acknowledging it, which is good. So for people who are are wanting to get out there and do something, just think about little steps you can take at least. And I'm going to have as many links in the description as I possibly can, try to get these books for free so you guys can at least get the links and read them on your own without having to pay for them, if that's possible. So yeah, just keep learning, keep growing, you know, and just don't bash yourself, but also recognize and be honest about the problems you have. So I wanted to talk about Kratom for sure and your business in that aspect. What got you aware of Kratom? What got you motivated enough to make an entire business out of it? And what are some positive effects that you've personally had from it? And maybe like friends and family, what have they thought about it?
Sure. Back in 2016, I was running an underground bookstore. It was literally underground and figuratively in the content that we catered to, but it was called Brave New Books. And most of the revenue came from health products. And so a friend of mine said, "Hey, I packaged this Kratom stuff. Can I sell it at your store?" So we started selling it. I never even tried it. It hardly moved, actually. Then in 2016, the DEA tried to ban Kratom and add it to Schedule 1, making it a felony, a federal felony. And then I was like, whoa, what's up with that? What is this stuff all about? So I tried some and I liked it, and it was good for stress and just kind of unwinding. And then I started packaging it and selling it on our own, because when the DEA tried to ban it, we continued to sell it. A lot of other vendors kind of out of fear closed up their shop and stopped selling it. But I knew, being aware of how the law works, like until they actually declared it Schedule 1, it was totally fair game still.
Yeah.
So was able to sweep up a little market share there. And it started becoming a pretty big chunk of the revenue. Well, we weren't able to keep our lease at the location we were at. So I started selling online, and yeah, it sold well. It was a good revenue product, but more importantly, it was fulfilling, because along that time, I started to hear more testimonials from clients and how it affected them. And there's a lot of people that were dependent on opioids that used Kratom in order to overcome the withdrawals so they could be clean of the opioids. There's even people that were using heroin that really struggled with that and managed to quit that using Kratom, because again, it helps minimize the withdrawals. But just in general, a lot of people find just natural relief. So for me, I use it for stress and anxiety, but mainly for focus and motivation. Usually like around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, my brain will just get a little foggy because I've been working for 4 or 5 hours by now. And then instead of having more caffeine or another yerba mate drink, which will keep me up all night, I'll have a little bit of Kratom, usually white or green Kratom, and it helps just kind of sharpen the focus and give me a little pep and help me to get through the rest of the day. It also would help when I was feeling stressed out because my kids are just going nuts and I'm starting to lose my patience, and I'm a peaceful parent, but sometimes I'd just be stressed and like raise my voice and stuff, but the Kratom helps just kind of take the edge off. I went through a really rough divorce just recently, actually, and that Kratom really helped with that. When I was feeling depressed and really anxious and stressed about that, it just kind of helps it not only helps like put your body at ease, like physiologically, but emotionally and mentally, it helps you just kind of have a better perspective on things. My girlfriend, she was dependent on Adderall for many, many years since college, but then she would use it in her professional life when she would feel overwhelmed, and she would just work her butt off, like way unnatural amount of work that she was doing. And it was really bad for her health. And on top of the Adderall, she would drink alcohol almost every night afterwards. She says that she would do it to pump the brakes, because Adderall is literally like methamphetamine, but it's legal. It's not very different chemically than street meth. And so she'd be wired up and she would feel inclined to drink at night. And so when we started dating, I was like, hey, you should really try some Kratom for that. The white Kratom helps people with focus and attention and concentration. And we noticed, because I read this book called Power of Habit, Back to the Habits, that there's a stimulus for many habits, and then there's a response, and then you get some sort of satisfactory relief from doing the habit. So her stimulus would be opening up the email list and seeing just a bunch of unopened emails and all this work she was going to have to do. And so she would feel overwhelmed. And then she would reach down for her Adderall bottle. And I was like, well, what if instead of reaching down for the Adderall bottle when you have those feelings of being overwhelmed, you just make a Kratom drink? So she tried that, and she was able to quit Adderall relatively quick. And then a few months later, she quit drinking altogether. So she doesn't drink at all. She hasn't drank in like 6 months or so. So that's a great tale as well. A lot of people, it's not just opioids or opiates that people are quitting. It's like attention medicine, anxiety medicine, depression medicine. And this is precisely why the pharmaceutical companies don't like Kratom, and they use their buddies in government to try to make it hard for people to access Kratom. They put out all sorts of propaganda and stuff. So it's definitely been a difficult industry to be in, but it's very fulfilling and rewarding work to do. Not only as someone that wants to help people, but also as a liberty activist, because I know the government doesn't like it, but we're still cranking it out.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember a few years ago, I was at a nutrition store locally, and they had Kratom there. I was like, oh, what's this? You guys just brought this in here. And they were like, oh, it's for this and for pain and all this other stuff, but it's like an opioid. So I didn't even get any, because like just the way that they were describing it made it seem like it was not going to be good, or like I should be careful about it, which is fair. Like do research and all that stuff. Make sure you do an informed purchase, but it was still to where like I was inclined to not do it, not pursue that. And it wasn't until Derek Bros was talking about Kratom and all that, and getting your free ounce of Kratom, that I was like, oh yeah, I'll try it. I'll do like the sample pack, you know.
Yeah.
So for alcohol in particular, because I know people that have battled and are battling with alcohol addiction and alcoholism, what would be the best type of Kratom for them?
Well, just to go back to what you were saying about being careful, people can become dependent on Kratom if they take a whole lot. So for example, there's people that were formerly pounding prescription pain medicine or even using heroin, and then they use Kratom to get off of that stuff, but they just take a whole lot of Kratom all the time. You can become physically dependent. Now, that can result in withdrawals like headache, feeling shaky, irritable, having the chills, restless leg type stuff. But if used responsibly, so for example, I take it almost every day, but I'm sure to take a few days off here and there. And I've never experienced withdrawal symptoms. There's been times where I was like, man, I'm taking the day off. I'm taking 2 days off. And I'm like, I want to have some, just because it helps with focus and it like helps take the edge off. But I never experienced any physical withdrawals. But I did want to throw that out there. If somebody's taking a whole lot, then they need to be careful, and you can taper down from it, just to be fully open about that possibility. But as far as but again, if someone was formerly dependent or addicted to heroin or pills, and then they become dependent on Kratom, it's a big example of harm reduction, because the Kratom isn't going to kill them, whereas taking too many pills or taking too much heroin could kill somebody, and does kill people all the time, a lot in this country. But as far as drinking, probably the Green Mangda. This is the one that you can get for free. You just pay $5 shipping and handling, and we'll send you this ounce for free. It normally retails for $15. But this is the most well-rounded. It's a green variety. So there's white varieties, there's green, and then there's red. The red ones are good for chronic pain and relaxation and help with sleep. A lot of people take these instead of prescription pain medicine.
Yeah, that red one's working right now for me. So.
Oh yeah, feeling pretty chill.
Yeah.
And then the white variety is a little more uplifting, energetic, good for stress and anxiety, good for focus and motivation. And then the green is kind of in the middle, although it's more similar to the white. It's good for stress and anxiety, taking the edge off, I like to say. And it has a little bit of mild euphoria. They all have a tiny bit of mild euphoria. Super subtle, though. Nothing like being high on cannabis or anything. But the green tends to be the most euphoric. So if people drink at a party and they drink to unwind, or if they drink after work because they're stressed, then the green Maeng Da would be a good replacement for that.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for going into detail. And I know that just recently you had a whole podcast on Kratom. So I'm going to make sure I have then the link in the description for this video so that people can get all the information, and you go through 2 separate articles and a lot of good information I didn't even know about. So that's excellent. I just want to show a quick comment. John Coleman, who I just actually interviewed, he said, bravo for bringing up the action angle. This is largely missing in the conscious community. All facts, but no real world work. And yeah, so John has personally been doing a lot of stuff on the education side of things to get that kind of stuff going on his own. But that's where this Kratom can come in. Maybe you just can't get some focus, and maybe Kratom can help you get that motivation, and also just doing learning, getting some more tools for your mental toolbox, how to deal with maybe negative habits that aren't helping you out, and then turning those into more positive, fulfilling ones, and just becoming more in line with your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And I know we're getting close to that 40-minute mark for you. I know that you're trying to do obviously the community aspect and all that, which is phenomenal. I was just curious what your thoughts were on right versus wrong. Do you see them as being more subjective, or is it more objective?
Oh, okay. There's this guy, Justin Pelladini or whatever. I don't know if you know him, but he would always go off on objective morality and would turn into these huge debates with like hundreds and hundreds of comments. So I think that it's a very difficult question. And an example that always comes up in my mind is, so this is something I saw in this documentary too, called The Monopoly on Violence. This guy I do the Unloose the Goose podcast with, named Pete Quinones. He was one of the producers of it, but I think it was Walter Block that was talking about universal rights. And in a free society, perhaps one of the only foundational rules would be it's unethical to violate someone else's rights. And then he pointed out, which is a thought experiment that I would always do, but he pointed out, so let's say, this is the example that he gave. I'll give a different example. Let's say that it's a 2-story condo or a 10-story condo, and the person on the 9th story accidentally slips off of his balcony, and he lands and grabs the rail on the person in the 8th story's balcony. And the 8th story balcony guy comes out and he's like, hey, that's my private property. Get out of here. And like switches his hands away. Or maybe the guy's not even there. Would it be right for this guy on the 9th floor to climb up and come onto this private property? If, in a libertarian society, private property is really important. And then the example that I give is like, you have a neighbor across the street and they're always yelling. The husband's always yelling at the wife. And then you can tell it's escalating to violence. And so people want to mind their own business. So maybe nothing really happens. But one day it gets really bad and you can tell that the guy is beating on his wife. And so is it ethical to break the door down and to try to subdue this person, to throw him off of this woman and try to subdue him? That would potentially violate the property rights, right? So property rights might be this universal right. So the way that I like to answer the question is really, it comes down to what the society is that you're living in. So for example, you have the little neighborhood block, and if it's just a fight between a spouse and the husband's aggressively yelling at the wife, then the people in the area would probably not think it was a good thing to do, to break the door down and try to subdue this guy because he's yelling at his wife. But there reaches a limit when it becomes acceptable to do that, and those around you would also agree that it's acceptable in order to subdue this guy. So I think I don't know if the answer would be subjective based on this thought experiment that I'm doing, but it's, it varies. there are some universal things like murder, for example, without it being defensive, so to speak. But things like, a lot of people in the Western world would think that it's wrong for a 13-year-old to be married or a 13-year-old to have sex. But it wasn't that long ago when, women were reproducing whenever they were able to biologically reproduce, right? Which is quite a young age for women. And that wasn't thought of as like a weird thing or something controversial. So that being said, I don't, my daughter's gonna be 13 years old someday, so I certainly don't want her to be with an older man or whatever, or to do anything at that age. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question. It's a tough one. I would like to think that there would be some objective moral things, but even private property rights, as I just demonstrated, when the guy's beating the wife, then there's certain things that would elicit violating that property right in order to preserve a right of someone else. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you totally answered the question, because you definitely explained your thoughts on it, which I appreciate. For me, like I do see it as like an objective thing. I've been doing a little bit of learning from Mark Passio. I've been learning about like the objective morality, natural law, and murder, assault, rape, theft, trespassing, coercion, lying. So it goes in that progression. So for me, like with that man beating his wife in the house, like, do we break in or do we not break in to subdue him? I would say, it definitely depends on the people. You have the right to not do that. You don't have to go and try to defend her, but if you want to, then yeah, of course, by all means, for sure, someone's gonna do it if they want. But I would say, yeah, the assault would be a more of a wrong than just them trespassing to get in there to help her out. So I think that's kind of how I would answer that. But it's still up in the air, And I do believe that we can, as a community, like if we move ourselves more towards a moral, like mindset, and kind of do no harm but take no shit type of thing, the non-aggression principle, self-defense principle, let's bring those together. I'm not going to harm you, but if you violate me, I'm obviously going to defend myself. And if we start doing that more as a society, we'll get to where we have more freedom. And I see like karma as being totally in effect. So based on our actions, we'll be able to see what we produce in the universe, what we produce here on the planet. And we'll be able to tell like what, if our actions are keeping in line with those objective kind of principles that are out there. So it is definitely discoverable. And we can see now why society is the way it is, garbage in, garbage out. We didn't have the right information in. We thought, hey, these people have the authority over us. They have the ability to do more things than we do. We have to pay taxes. It's the right thing to do. And that's how we've gotten society to where it is today. Just people having just a faulty foundation. Just their foundational principles are kind of just not correct, honestly. And and so I definitely, with you being an anarchist, which I totally agree with, and especially your few videos on the government and the elections and all that stuff, and you explained it very, very well and concisely. I just want to at least get that question out to you just to see what your thoughts were on it.
No, I appreciate that. I think I'm familiar with Mark Passio, but I haven't gone in depth to the natural law thing. But so you're saying there's like a system where if a higher ethic is being violated, then it's permissible to violate the property rights, for example, because you're stopping an assault or a murder potentially?
That was just me off the cuff. That's how I was kind of thinking about that.
Sure.
I was thinking that, yeah, because yeah, that was just me kind of thinking that might be something that would be the case, but I'm not sure exactly. I still got a lot of, he has like an arc drive promotion where you get like hundreds of books, hundreds of videos, all that stuff. And you can look at it at your own leisure offline on a hard drive that you send to him. Sure. And there's plenty that I haven't even looked at, I haven't even fully started on that stuff. So I'm just merely a student. I feel like me just communicating with people, trying to learn on my own and bounce ideas back and forth is just great for me to try to learn and grow as a person. But yeah, did you have to go right now, or did you have a little bit more time?
I need to get going. So I don't know if you have one more question or.
No, I just wanted to show Lindsay's comment. She's I felt the same when I've been on Adderall for ADD and depression. Definitely need to be drinking Kratom regularly now. And so that's awesome. I really appreciate you giving me those testimonials too. That's definitely powerful.
Yeah, it's been a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, John, I very much appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me. I know we weren't able to really nail it down before, but I'm very happy that you were able to come on, and it really means a lot to me. And if you wanted to just give your websites and your YouTube channel to people that are interested.
Sure. Cool. Yeah. And thank you for being patient with me. I know we had some stuff going and I wasn't very responsive. So I appreciate you being patient with me. And I'm glad to come on and chat with you. People can check out my podcast at livefreenow.show, livefreenow.show, and they could subscribe via iTunes or Stitcher, all that stuff. And then if they want to try an ounce of Kratom for free, they can go to freeounceofkratom.com. You just pay $5 shipping and handling, and we'll send you this ounce. Then you're presented with the one-time opportunity to try the 4 other types for 50% off. So it comes out to $33.75. That's freeounceofkratom.com if they want to try the Kratom. And then finally, I want to invite people to participate in the Freedom Cell Network. There's over 4,000 people that are engaged and interested. And like I said before, essentially, we're trying to create the free society we all deserve while the state crumbles all around us.
Perfect. Yeah. And just so everyone knows, let's get off of YouTube. Let's get off Facebook. Let's get on minds.com, float.app. Let's get on library.tv. Let's get on BitChute. Let's start supporting these other platforms. I'm posting these onto those other platforms. So let's just do what we're not just say stuff, but actually take the action that's required. So John, thank you so much. And hope to talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. You're welcome. You too. Bye.
Peace. Bye.